Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.
They thought that California could stop guns, right? But no, they can't. So guns are legal again in California, and they're going to have open carry, and it's going to be amazing. But what they did do was California passed an 11% gun ammo, all excise tax on all things. So they're just an increased another 10% on all costs. So if it costs $100, now it's $110 or $111, whatever it is, and they're going to continue to just price it out. So if you're a really wealthy white person like Gavin Newsom, you can buy a gun. That's you can buy as many guns as you want. But if you're your average citizen living in East LA or in Oakland or in some place where you're afraid for your life sometimes because you're trying to pick up your kid from public school, and it's dangerous all over California and weird places now. You will probably not be allowed to have a gun because it'll be impossible to afford.
Right. Well, if you live in Oakland, I mean, they got they got coyote problems. You gotta if your chickens are out there, a lot of people are getting chickens now in Oakland. You gotta scare the coyotes away. So sometimes you just need to fire that shotgun in the air. So that's really unfortunate. For a lot of those
David,
people.
I didn't know that many coyotes in Oakland. I really didn't know.
Oh, there are. Actually, I thought you meant the Sanctuary City style coyotes. Anyway, Will Morgan is also with us, the Meta Egg. He's adjusting and fondling his microphone immediately. That nice ASMR that's going on. Andrew Vega, Bat Monkey Customs, is also with us. How's it going? So, yeah, it's been a weird. It's Gesundheit to whomever. It's been a weird week, There was a couple stories I wanted to open up with. One was the Waco one. There's a guy who was shot in Waco this week. So first off, ATF closed some gun show loopholes, and then a man was shot in Waco, and no suspect in custody. And then so it was two 19-year-old men, including Johnson, were shot 600 blocks away, being taken to the hospital. And there was I was just thinking about Waco, because they're in the process of burying a bunch of Waco. They're it reminded of the.
Didn't Trump go down to Waco or something very recently too?
Yeah, right. Wasn't that Waco and Trump? Let's do that. There was a thing, right? Trump went striking meeting. Where was it? He did. At a Waco rally, Trump defends January 6th insurrectionists, blast the prosecutor, investigating.
There was interesting timing with that too, right? He did that at a significant moment. I can't remember what was happening there simultaneously. What was that? That was kind of a symbolic thing.
Just a few days ago, he was basically just stating that he is responsible for the he want to the recount or whatever you call it. he is responsible basically for January 6th. That's the basics.
That's what he said.
Well, not quote unquote, but he said
takes responsibility.
He basically said that how do I quote this? Let me look it up real quick. This was just 3 days ago.
it's just so interesting to me, like the burning down of the temple kind of thing. It's like the second temple of Jerusalem kind of thing. Because like they go from I was talking to Adam Krigler earlier about it and how Trump was speaking, and there's a lot of people in the front, and then it all happened from the back. So while everyone was there doing the Trump thing, people came in from the back side of the building. And that's exactly the way that similar to the Wailing Wall story, and the destruction of the first temple or the second temple.
Oh, you're talking about Jerusalem being sacked by Rome?
Yeah.
You're talking,
and that's kind of the way January 6th was kind of presented to me, right? Like a second.
It just looked like a tour. Like it felt.
Well,
yeah, there's footage from the front and all the craziness, but like inside itself, for the most part. And then there was parts where it kind of looked like, somebody let the monkeys loose in the museum or something, like the way that they're like handling,
Have
like
you seen
papers
pictures?
That looks straight up just like January 6th.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
That's all I'm trying to say. Like I felt like they were like, when they picked storyboards, they were like this color scheme,
Totally.
There's a lot more to it, I'm sure. But January 6th does have, the Ray Epps thing was a big one recently because he's going to be charged with a misdemeanor. And I think we all know he's a Fed, right? Like that's kind of the point. When he was there, everyone was saying Fed, and he's like, we should charge the Capitol. They're like Fed, but nobody did a citizen's arrest, and no one was able to stop the guy. And eventually, people tracked him down because there's so much footage of him. And so they finally had to give him something. So they're going to give him like a misdemeanor charge to get him through it. But pretty clearly, this guy is like he is the insurrectionist. And the idea that he's a real Trump supporter, I mean, like it seems he's set apart, right? Like that's.
You know what? Thank God we have all those paintings of Jerusalem being sacked, because how will we even know if it had happened? Like they say, if we didn't have those,
But those paintings are the Renaissance paintings.
I'm just gonna zoom in real quick. Sorry.
So I have what I was showing earlier was the negotiation files for Waco. I just printed them out.
Really? Wait, what? Hold on, what?
Yeah, I printed them out. This is just some of them.
The Waco what? You have the negotiation transcripts? You were just when did you print this? Yeah, how did you print this out so fast? Did you just have this? You just did this recently? This is a sync. This is awesome.
Within this year, within the last few months, I guess, because I was doing the research on my phone, but that was too difficult because there's like hundreds of folders. There's at least 200 folders. I think there's 250. Or something. It's something crazy. It's asinine.
Let's explain to the millennials and the Zoomers what Waco is. It's like January 6th, but for boomers, right? So how did
one of the funniest things? Though, let me give a quick illusion because it's hilarious. Because basically the story is the ATF like ballsed up and tried to take more authority than they should have. They did some shit that they shouldn't have. The whole time in the tapes, they're basically telling them, like all the people in there is like, hey, you guys, there's evidence all over this place. Like the only way to get rid of the evidence is to burn it down. And there's no way we're coming out if you guys put the ATF in charge of the investigation. That's what they said the whole time. Yeah. FBI over and over and over again repeatedly goes, there's no way the ATF will be in the investigation. The very last thing in the files, it says when everything the phone lines turned off, and it says from here on out the ATF will be in charge of the investigation.
Wow.
Oh wow!
It's like a comedy, dude. It's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious, but
no, because people died. But
it's like a dark comedy.
It's pretty.
It's like a Bill Hicks bit, which is interesting. Didn't Bill Hicks drive out there at the time? Like, wasn't he like on like?
That was Alex
within.
Jones.
No. It was. I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I think he was within a mile of it or something like at the time, right?
Oh yeah, because he was down there, right? Like he was. Yeah. That's where he's from.
This is him right here in Waco. This is
bro.
This is the first Alex Jones footage, man. Right here. I mean, dang, bro. This is it.
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this stuff.
This is where the
Joe Rogan. I was at Waco. Joe
spraying frogs here. We don't know what for. Yeah.
All right. Now wait. But because it's weird. There's something else I discovered when I was just going through the papers, because there's what basically is the minutes will have in kind of a non-detailed description of what they're talking about, and then it will have like the FBI was contacted by this person, or like somebody jumps and tries to get in there at one point. So the minutes will be interrupted with events. So there will be events, and then there'll be conversation. In one of the events, they were contacted by what's his fucking name? I think the guitarist of Iron Butterfly, because Iron Butterfly had they had said that they would go down there and play for 24 hours in Agata de Vida to make
is that how the guitarist like crashed into a ravine? You know the guitarist he fell into a ravine, and people thought that he just like, people say he was abducted by a UFO or something, and then they found his body like.
I have a screenshot of it. I can't remember which one it was, which exactly, like it was in a succession of phone calls that the FBI had gotten to use audio to, cause the Branch Davidians to come out, because that had just happened in Nicaragua or whatever.
Yeah.
So they had been called over and over
That's
and over.
so freaking nuts. Okay, so first off, I'm sorry, because Iron Butterfly is terrifying because they're way scarier than Iron Maiden. If you're really into Thelema, you like Iron Butterfly more. Keep going.
But you guys remember of Philip Taylor Kramer, right? The guy who disappeared. He's a guitarist of Iron Butterfly, but he went missing in 1995. Wait, what year is Waco?
Oh man,
93.
So 2 years after Waco, he vanished. He was in a van, and so Philip Taylor Kramer.
What?
You guys don't remember this case?
No, bro.
There was like all bunch of like crazy theories. Like they said he said that he was abducted. He was about to get abducted by alien or something crazy.
Probably was.
Well, here's something that you don't know about Waco either. David Koresh is involved with aliens. David Koresh said that he was an emissary for an advanced civilization who was highly technologically reliant on lasers.
Yeah.
Who had put the information or the code to the seals of Revelation in his head instantaneously.
So but basically also, let's go for the Mormon angle, because he started out as a Seventh-day Adventist.
Philip K. Dickium.
He started as a Seventh-day Adventist, but he also had Latter-day Saint training, or like the Adam is God kind of narrative, like the Brigham Young Adam is God narrative. Adam became God. Adam is a Michael the Archangel, and so we're gonna get on a spaceship. It's a spaceship God theory, right?
Kind of, yes.
But also he holds a priesthood.
He said in 1981 he was in a parking lot. He said in 1981 he was in a parking lot and he was homeless. And he basically goes, "Fuck God, fuck you, God!" Ah! And he said, right then, an angel appeared right in front of him.
For trying to denounce God.
It happened. His name is not David Koresh. His name is Vernon Howell. You guys have to realize, of the bullshit about him being a charismatic, individual. He's a friggin' redneck, nerd. His mom was a hooker. All of the information on the
you know about Koreshianity, right? Koreshianity.
There's a whole conversation where they bring that up to him. There's a whole conversation about Christian. It's messed up because they were in there for 60 days, man, and talking on the phone the whole time. They talk about the Illuminati. It's nuts.
I mean, well, okay. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are really interesting to me for a few reasons. So one, obviously, we did the Hollow Earth special with Vice, and we talked a lot about Koresh Teed, or Cyrus Teed, who became Koresh, because Koresh is the title for this Gnostic Rosicrucian sect. The other thing is that this guy is claiming to have seen actual revelation. Revelation is different than inspiration, or if you have God kind of give you some conviction, that's one thing. But the Joseph Smith Star Wars thing, where angels, Obi-Wan Kenobi comes down and is there with you, that's the revelation thing. That is forbidden beyond. You have to have the priesthood. So you've got the Aaronic priesthood or the Cohen priesthood. The Cohen priesthood was the sacrificial priesthood of the Second Temple, and they lost the Second Temple. They can't make sacrifices anymore, which is why so many Cohens are lawyers now, because they have to do services. But there's also the Melchizedek priesthood, which is probably Shem, Noah's son, but we don't know for sure if Malik Siddiq is. So the Melchizedek priesthood is this idea that they can take tithing, but there's no evidence that Brigham Young ever had the Melchizedek priesthood, and so the church just kind of went on without it. So they all have the Aaronic priesthood, so they can't receive, according to this conspiracy, revelation. And so that's why there's all these offshoots like the Seventh-day Adventists. And so if Koresh, as we're calling him, David Koresh, was really seeing this revelation.
How?
Hey, here. So you guys want a Trump angle for this, right? So if you look at
No.
okay, well, hear me out. So Koresh, he got a name from Koreshin, right? Cyrus T, right?
Right.
Cyrus T. You know his
Cyrus
name.
is the name of his son.
He's named Cyrus because of King Cyrus, right? King
Ooh.
Cyrus, who
Cyrus
saved
is the
the
name
Jews.
of,
That
there was a Cyrus
allowed them,
Koresh also.
to allow for the building of the second temple, right? So
Yeah.
guess who
Wow.
guess who Israel minted a coin with Cyrus on commemorate? It's Trump.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Cyrus and Trump were minted on the same coin because they say that Trump will build the third temple.
Oh, that's
Right.
crazy.
Dude, you know
Yeah,
what?
that's real.
Gotta
So-
commend you, bro. There it is, right
That's
there.
real.
And
Yeah.
I kind of should have remembered that because the point of it was, isn't Cyrus? So Columbus Day we celebrate on Columbus Day is October 20. Was it? It's supposed to be the same day as the Cyrus seal cylinder. So when he broke open and freed the Jewish slaves and he released the cylinder, this is Declaration 539 BC is declared like the day of human rights. It's like the first day of human rights. And supposedly it happened on Columbus Day in 539 BC. And so it's been a reoccurrent holiday ever since, right? Is the idea that Cyrus freed the Jews because the Jews were slaves in Babylon. And he said, I free you all. But since I free you, and since, I'm the emperor, now essentially your freedom belongs to me, right? And that all starts, human rights start as a privilege given by the state at this point on Columbus Day.
Mm-hmm. And so there was some recent news with Trump and Israel, right? Does he visit Israel again recently, or what was the story there? They did some kind of, there was like, I feel like it was like last week or the week before or something. There was some new.
I mean, he
Trump
did
Israel news.
He did some weird stuff. So like one thing was he was talking to the Israelis and he talked to the conservative Jews, and he said something to the conservative Jews about the liberal Jews at Rosh Hashanah. And that was really weird because it like all of a sudden the Jews were like, hey, how come you're talking about Jews? Well, you're talking to Jews and you're saying you like conservative Jews, but you feel like liberal Jews are a thing. I guess I don't know. I'm not going to defend it. I'm just saying what he did. But simultaneously, you have to remember Biden this week said that he was raised in synagogues, which is like saying he was raised in Scientology auditing. Like he watched a movie once about it recently. And now
his son died in Iraq too, right? His son that died in the car accident, and now we're fucking whatever.
You guys know that Elon Musk was speaking to Netanyahu yesterday, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So, I watched some of that.
Yeah, so they were talking about AI. I'm like, why do you want to talk to Prime Minister of Israel about artificial intelligence?
Well,
what permission do you need from him?
First AI is gonna be Jewish, Eddie. Just
the BlackRock said, BlackRock is the kind of investment, like the Lockheed CIA branch of Mossad, right? They said, or their advisor said that they thought in the next 6 years, AI is going to become so powerful that they won't be able to control it. And that's really when the conversation started to matter. Like before it, people pretended, it didn't exist. Corporations and states classified research. We've had Google-like technology since the 80s, since like 1982 probably. And AI, we didn't even recognize that Google, the search engine, was an AI. For years, humans were just searching and not really understanding that they were interacting with a far more sentient thing.
What if like all of our religious terms and everything? Because if you go back and you read Gnostic, like the Nag Hammadi and all of that, like they're talking about stuff called like forethought, like it's using sci-fi terms. If you like read it,
sci-fi was using the Nag Hammadi. Let's be clear.
Yeah, rebranding.
Well, here, okay, all right. Look, John Carter of Mars movie poster 2014.
Barbara. Yep,
I got you. Yeah.
Where this one?
Yeah. You guys recognize that actor?
This is the most expensive Disney failure ever.
Well, I
Well,
feel
yeah,
like that.
They
for real,
banked on
for
its
real.
failure because they
It's
were
only-
about to acquire Star Wars.
Right. It's also only a failure if you're speaking about it financially, as far as like subliminal propaganda, whatever you want to call it.
What
Like
about the
that's great
the
success.
original source though? I mean, what do you guys think of Burroughs
Mhm.
and Tarzan and Carter and the role it played in like the turn of the century? Like it was it's directly mixing religion with sci-fi, right? Like
Right.
it's giving that concept into the Zeitgeist. This is the
Sure.
this is the first pop. This is why Jon Favreau wanted to do his version of Carter to be the new Star Wars, is what he wanted it to be, what he was trying to develop it to be, because that's what it is. It's like a Star Wars as a pre-Star Wars. It's like you get what I'm saying. It's just
Yeah. Not as much as Valerian, perhaps, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I dig it.
Sure. I wouldn't have thought about that. But the actor who plays it is the guy who plays David Koresh in the 2019 series. That's what brought me on to this whole thing to begin with. Because if you watch anything, nobody says anything about aliens and David Koresh. Well, then I linked that guy's movies. So there's like three that come out in 2014. Because that's the kid that played Tim Riggins off of Friday Night Lights or Saturday Night Lights or whatever, that football show that came out of Texas. He was like one of the main characters in that. His popularity grew. He was in Carter, which flopped. That kind of stained him a little bit. But also he was in, Savages, the Oliver Stone movie, and Battleship. I watched both the other day. Battleship is directly from like what Koresh would say Revelations plays out in the movie Battleship.
Leviathan's rising from the sea. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of this.
Well, he basically says it's the horsemen are basically representative of like the army of God. It's like in Ezekiel 12 or something that talks about this army coming out of the two brass mountains. The two brass mountains are being overridden by these chariots of armies of white horses, black horses, red horses, and sickly horses or pale horses. But it's supposed to be a whole army. So that army is represented in that, like the battleship aliens.
Dude, is this the Waco flag? The Branch Dravidian flag is a Dravidian. It's a sperm Solomon, seal of Solomon.
It's a white worm, bro.
With an egg, or is this fish? Is the fish eating it? Like, wow, this is like, I mean, it's amazing.
Kind of Orphic or something.
He talked about Shekinah. It was all supposed to be this representation of like the Christ and female. That's why he had all of the wives and so forth. It's this, dude, everything he said, like it gets to the point where you're like, how the hell did this guy know this?
Hey, Bill says that John Carter is about Jim Morrison. I'm apt to believe him.
Another thing is Battleship. The two main characters in Battleship are the guy who plays Tarzan and the guy who plays John Carter. And they're two, bro. I popped it into GPT and GPT broke it down how it was like all of the characters, one is Apollo, one is Dionysus. Like I fucking fact checked it with, dude, it's crazy.
Hey, Will, did we discuss this?
Philip K. Dick. He says that a laser put the answer to Revelations in his head, and it's a computer program. Like the whole thing that he's saying has nothing to do with anything. All he did was like, it's a language model. It's basically a language model. I swear to God, that's what. And I got the receipts, y'all.
Hey, Will, did we discuss realism relating to this? Because the 1970s UFO religion, does that tie in to Koresh's trip or no?
Koresh, okay, so Koresh said that he saw the alien in 81, and then the alien told him what to do to get involved with the Seventh-day Adventist. That's when he became like. That's when he became like a prophet of the Seventh-day Adventist. And there's a lot of tapes that you can find out there of him. They had plans. So from 81 to 85, he gets involved. 85, he says he takes a trip to Orion, the Horsehead Nebula. That's why it all has to do with horses, because if you look it up, we're actually in the constellation of Orion. We're like in the one arm that Orion's in. And if you look at most of our like religious iconography, it's all from Egypt to everything. It's always Orion.
Okay. This is
can
one
I,
thing. This is one thing why I always mention about the Beetlejuice, right? The Beetlejuice.
Oh God, and
The
Boobert. We're
shoulder
gonna talk
of
about
Orion.
the Bobert boobs. But keep going.
No, because
Thank you.
Bobert boobs at Beetlejuice.
well, I've been tracking this for like 2 years now, since 3 years since the pandemic began. Because Beetlejuice, Beetle guys, whatever you
That's
call
two.
it.
That's two.
Yeah.
Don't be careful.
Okay, so
They're,
it
do-
dimmed.
they're doing a sequel. Sorry.
Okay, so it dimmed in October 2019. That's exactly when the Wuhan Military War Games and the Bill Gates event 201 started.
Mm.
They all started in October 2019 when the star dimmed, and ever since it's been dimming, everybody's predicting that it's going to go supernova.
The thing is that
And subsequently, the movie's coming out, the Beetlejuice #2.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
there's a
Andrew,
whole bunch
I
of
wanna
things.
hear-
But it
hear you.
implies Koreshianity implies a simulation, like almost all of the Hollow Earth and stuff of that
Right.
nature.
That's the thing, because look at this. This is the model of the Koreshianity. The idea is that we're inside of the Hollow Earth, and space is this centric, like black hole of density that all these things are inside of, and it's metaphysical. So it's a far more, the spirit is denser, not expansive. It's things are going and getting denser and smaller, rather than things are getting further and wider away, and we're seeing it backwards. That's kind of their religious method. So we're getting closer to things at all times.
Have you ever heard of Brazen Heads? If you look up BRAZN heads, yeah. The whole idea of
that was
whole
definitely a demon, but that's all right.
it's a mechanical demon. They were making these heads. It's basically a chatbot.
Oh,
It's basically AI.
Oh,
The
it's like
whole
Samashimon kind of. Sorry.
And then they would ask
no,
it. It was
never
like an oracle.
apologize. What is Shimashimon? Come on, Shimashimon.
Oh, it's Mashimon.
Doraemon.
It's
Randy
like
Savage. No.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
There.
Oh, there you
San
go.
Someone, Mayan deity represented by Mayan people. Guatemalan. It's like you build a spirit or a vessel for the spirit, and then you can hear the spirit through it. Is that it?
Yeah, it smokes cigarettes and drinks and stuff, and all major criminal organizations sort of make offerings to this.
Oh, that's adorable.
Well, that's what the Templars. That's what the Templars got tried for, right? Is worshiping a head, like the idea that the head is some sort of like technology that gives you an insight into the spirit world, right?
It's Zardoz, the flying head.
It's Zardoz.
John the Baptist.
Are you saying
Orpheus?
Well, okay. So what? January 1823. Joseph Smith. He sees an angel directed by John the. Hold on, I go back a page. John the Baptist.
He
He says
the head.
Yeah, so you see, so that's the thing is he says that the first vision he sees John the Baptist there with him, and so his head, yeah, you got that.
Trying to get ahead in advertising.
Oh my God, they are salesmen. So I don't know, that's interesting. But are you saying then that part of the goal for the Branch Davidian Waco?
No,
cult?
it has to do with the idea that okay. If you look in the back of the Sync book, like 89% of the people's suggestive reading is Philip K. Dick, because Sync, the idea of Sync is very reliant on Philip K. Dick. If you go to 42 minutes, we've basically interviewed everybody who was close to him, all of his friends, his wife. So I'm overly educated on Philip K. Dick. That's just a coincidence.
Didn't he say that he's stuck in AD 51? The year 51,
right?
AD.
Like, so we're like in this like simulation cult,
right?
Yeah, not stuck in the Valis loop is loops.
We're in a matrix loop, and we think we're not in because we have this material illusion and all this magic around us that makes things, and we've kind of created excuses for technology so that magic doesn't seem so overwhelming, and that's keeping us from reaching the end of days and doing what we're supposed to do.
Well, Koresh's idea is that all of those ideas, like there's one way that he reforms the Bible where every time there's a miracle, there's like a cloud in the sky. And so it's this idea that all of the things that we understand as far as spiritual and as far as like how prophecy works and how, like, it's exactly what Philip K. Dick did. Philip K. Dick took the ideas of prophecy and tried to explain it to himself through technological terms. What Koresh was doing was he was basically like, look, anything that you guys have like can come up with, it's not only like AI was invented or was around 2,000 years ago. You're not going to win. Nothing you're going to do is going to win. In fact, that they know what's going to happen next. They put what was going to happen next into prophets' heads, and they keyed it through language. So Philip K. Dick said the word Felix appeared to him over and over in his own text, that God had somehow edited his books for him. And that it was all things that God had done that he wasn't aware of.
Dude, Felix is nuts. There's no way to get around it. Felix, the cat, represents the Saint Felix, the martyr, but also it does. I mean, there's no way around it.
It's only
dude, my rabbi is so big on Felix, man. I had like a Felix. Here, I have it right here. So I got like this Felix. Oh, I can't.
Oh, I'm trying to solo.
So I got this guy.
Oh,
and so oh, Fritz, Sorry,
I think they're definitely related though, because like
related,
Fritz the cat is the
Fritz is like the sexual version of Felix, man.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Okay,
It's
so
Felix.
who did Felix?
Oh,
Felix the cat is like turn of the century, like old.
But
so he must be a play on him. Fritz the cat is a play on Felix the cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1919.
yeah. So
okay.
Pat Sullivan and Otto Mesmer, like mesmerizer. Are they related?
Yeah.
I'm
So
that
would
later.
make sense though, because he basically the Felix the cat as like a savior represents.
Have you seen Felix the Cat the movie? Did that scare you? Did that traumatize you? This is actually worse than Waco. This movie, because it's about seriously. This is a movie where they're like, it starts out with a 3D Felix the Cat, but it's made on an Amiga in 1989. So like, it's terrifying. But then you go into actual animation. Felix follows a princess who gets stolen from some evil dimensional world. Let me see if I can just find some pictures. She's in some evil world, and they build their houses there so that like smoke is kept in and clean air goes out, so everyone lives in this horrible bad world, and he has to rescue this princess who's about to get raped in a vaudeville show essentially and bring her back, and he has to find like this wizard who has like this alchemical technology that he can open the portal again so that he can go from one dimension to the other dimension and bring her back. It's freaking nuts. And his bag Felix the Cat the movie.
Is her name Princess Peaches?
No, it's a different. But I think they took it from this. But this is more like, she looks like more like a Barbie princess. But the thing is, it's like the magic thing of it. He has a bag, bag of tricks, and so he has this infinite bag which he can pull things out of, which is just supernatural and evil in every way because he's just got anything he ever needs in this little like evil portal bag of a black hole in it. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of Oswald too, right?
Yeah, Rabbit.
And also the Japanese cartoon Doraemon also has a bag that you can infinitely take out.
Well, so I don't know if this is dating myself or just humanity, but like Felix the Cat clock, because there was this, everyone had this clock.
The Kit Kat clock.
Yeah, and it's not really Felix the Cat. Like a lot of people have said, like
I wouldn't have even
thought
about that.
But time.
Back to the Future has a Felix reference. I didn't even think about that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at the very beginning of all of those clocks, like that's how I remember that clock.
Interesting point. Yeah. There's definitely there's a bag of tricks, and his bag of tricks looks like the Cosm tip bag.
Tattoo except that bag have like Louis Vuitton on it. That would be
tight. So if you've ever heard of the Russian equivalent to the Burning Man, they have Kazan tip, and this is their bag.
Oh.
So Putin stopped this right dead in its tracks, but it's its own country, basically. They create a country instead of a festival. It's a country. You have to get a passport and a visa instead of a ticket. You know what I mean? And so they have their own rules and everything. It was like very post-Soviet Union collapse. Like they build a country for a week.
Ooh, this feels really relevant right now. So Bill says, so Koresh had the meta abstraction of Philip K. Dick and saw that Rome 74 AD and 1974 AD are part of the same simulation. Like, isn't that like a meme right now?
Waco and Jericho are
Rome
the
is
same
Roman
thing.
Empire, yeah.
Waco
Yeah.
and Jericho are the same event.
right. Okay. Oh,
So
far
like
out.
even things that they're saying on in the when they're on the FBI tape, there's like a scene where like one of the guys is like, this is hard or something like that to David Koresh, and he was like, you know what? God's going to put you right next to my Father in heaven once this is all done, just for having to put up with all of this. Like it's the scene of Jesus on the Christ, like looking at the guy right next to him on the cross and saying, you know, just because you were crucified with me, you get like a one-way ticket in. And then they go on.
You're lucky to be here today.
right. I know it might not seem like this is a good deal, but trust me.
but I guess the guy on the cross would be the FBI negotiators, because they really didn't mean any harm to the people. But every time that there was a bond that the FBI would have, the commanders of the ATF and whatever the hell was in charge would cycle them out. So I think that there was over like 30 different negotiators, and it's a mass clusterfuck, man. It's bad drama. Like the fact that even the documentaries and things of that nature that we get on Netflix, even the series, are really slanted towards that, the kind of making fun attitude that the media had of Waco when it happened. You get what I'm saying? Like there's still oh, well, the guy still had sex with all those young chicks, right? That's kind of weird, right? Well, I guess it's okay if you got, but there's like
kill all of the kids. Yeah, it's horrifying.
There's 80 people still in there. There's 20 something kids that were like gassed. There's tanks that ran over people's heads. It's just a mess, man. It's like it's a really tragic event that we look at as almost like a joke about, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer heading to Waco with a bottle of barbecue sauce.
So you're saying that was 93. 93 was the same year that the van bomb with the World Trade Center, the bomb that went off. And so how close were those? Like that, is that like a matter of just like a couple months or something? What's the timeline there?
Oh, here's another weird sync that I found out. It happens on February 28th. It happens on, and for some reason, and media, the apocalypse is always on leap year. I have no idea if anybody knows what that means.
You gotta get an extra day. It's a baker's year, you know.
Yeah, it is. It's like a day at a time, I guess.
Yeah, the Mayans do it too. Everybody does it.
Word.
So
wasn't
anyways,
it the same year Natural Born Killers came out?
It's
93. I don't know. I know that wasn't that Jim Carrey's big year. He had like 3 movies that year: The Mask, Ace Ventura,
1994 is Natural Born Killers, but
okay,
Czechoslovakia ceased to exist. Bill Clinton is sworn in as president, and that's pretty ominous. Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happened in 93. The World Trade Center bombing, like you said.
Delima.
Yeah, 93. So I think that's actually a good call, Eddie. I think about all the people born in 93, you know, and all of these.
It's also
old
Koresh's
times.
33rd year. That he was 33 years old. He died like a week after Easter.
Just like Jesus Christ.
Passover inside. They were definitely like eating kosher military meals.
Well,
yeah.
What
the hantavirus.
He's the second coming.
It's symbolically, but it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with what he had. After 85, he went throughout the world. And I think everybody in there, the United States got sued by a whole bunch of different countries for the wrongful death of their citizens. People like Australia sued us, New Zealand, I think, sued us, England. But and the majority of the people were in there, I think it was like 50 to 60% African. Ethnicity, like a lot of things don't make sense. It doesn't.
Dude, Will, what was the thing with the reading of Revelation and Genesis? How there's the chorus, the way of that reading, the methodology behind it.
Okay, so the first. Okay, so the first seal is Psalms 45. So traditionally, each seal has like a group of things around it, like a group of verses that explain it. Those verses are linked through language. Like one word goes through all of the different. So the first seal's basically key word is bow. And if you look up bow for the first time, it appears in Genesis 9, which is the covenant of God, which is what Judgment Day leads up to. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you know what I was
instead of-
thinking? Sorry,
Instead
the last
of rainbow, it says bow. Instead of rainbow, it says
the
bow.
main thing that like okay, I wanted to say this for like the whole episode, but I couldn't find the sync, and here it is. So Unarius cult, right? You're familiar with the Unarius cult? It's like this LA Disneyfied alien cult that they were sending books to Reagan, and Disney was involved, and Reagan's wife was into it, and like people were like, is that really true? And like if you look into Reagan and his wife and John Quigley and these psychics, and you know how into woo they were, like they were really into this idea that aliens were coming down in I think 1995. But Ruth, the lady who ran the church, died in 93, and so it left the Unarius cult in like a state of confusion of like who's going to take it over and run everything. And that's when they started inserting, in 93, a bunch of these alien kind of groups like started like pushing into Miscavigism and Scientology, right? Because Miscavige took over the church at that point too. So it's all of the cults at once in 93.
Weird. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Hey, Andreas, look up. I just dropped something in the mailbox. Twitter.
Sure. Going right now.
So since you pulled up Zardoz earlier, do you remember the year of Zardoz when it happened?
It's 1993.
Don't even do this to me right now. 2293. Oh,
John Borman. He knows.
That's pretty interesting.
It's all about the flying head, the talking heads, the flying heads,
there,
the godheads.
But like the thing with Miscavige, right? Like actually, I think that's even probably more interesting than the Unarius cult. Like the fact that he took over the church, the way he did, and that 93 was like the end of the old Scientology church, the beginning of the
year. It's incredibly interesting that how much Scientology spends as an organization on seaworthy vessels versus aerial ones.
Yeah,
or at least why aren't they trying to get to space?
Well, because they are. Space is the water, flat Earth.
Bro. Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The inner space.
Yeah, bro. I mean, so Scientologists, though, like in 1993 is when they were granted their tax-exempt status because they organized this, getting a bunch of members into the FBI, the IRS, the CIA, whatever they could get them into. And then they had a bunch of information and they blackmailed the government. And so 1993 is like a crazy year in a lot of ways.
I had this idea. I think I've told it on a previous episode a long time ago, but there was like this movie idea where it's like there's two guys that like basically someone has like a contract because in Scientology they sign a contract for like 1 billion whatever years, like it's like for all the lives into the future. But then it's like it's like they sign the contract, but then they're reborn like whatever it is thousands of years later. But it turns out that Scientology in the future is just like a waste service. So they end up having to like basically be garbage men in the future because they sign this contract and they're like, well, you agreed that you were going to.
That's basically what it sounds like. Well, I don't know. The Waco thing seems really interesting to me because, like, isn't it also that they were trying to get on a comet, or is that the other ones at Brian's Jonestown?
No, there was.
That was the Haley's Comet.
Heaven's Gate. Was a star.
That's Heaven's Gate. So I think it's interesting how these things are all mixed together in our minds. Like they must have been doing something in there for the ATF. Like, what's the weirdest? Give me something weird. What's the weirdest part of their religion? I mean, you told me there's aliens or something. What spaceship?
What religion? The Branch Davidians?
The Branch Davidians. Yeah. What's so weird about it? It doesn't sound that weird.
They predicted the future, that there was like, you got to wonder why the hell were there tanks and helicopters involved?
Yeah. It sounds to me like maybe they really did have something going on. Like if this dude
have something involved,
but then again, the angels didn't protect them. I mean, wouldn't that have been like a biblical scenario that they
they
didn't have to live through a Clinton presidency, so maybe they were saved.
They knew they were going to die. It's written in what's the Habakkuk. Habakkuk is basically, so there's really weird experience that I had when I was a kid, and I grew up in Alabama, and this farmer took me to this primitive church, and they read Habakkuk, and I was like, damn, that's some grisly shit.
Dude,
What happened to
Habakkuk is a
Habakkuk?
Habakkuk book right there. Like, behold, the swift and hasty nation, the Chaldeans, who are swift like leopards. I forget the rest, but yeah. It's
Yeah,
hard.
basically, it's the story of, there talks about like swift, like lightning fast chariots that spit fire.
So it starts off by
That's what-
saying like the king's like, dude, what is going on? Like, why is the world like, why are people not going and following the rules? And God's like, don't worry, dude, they're gonna, because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna bring forth like I'm gonna have the Chaldeans will take over all the kingdoms, and they're gonna be like, they'll be able to fly. Yeah, what was it you said? They're like a plane, basically. They fly like eagles.
He said it makes a sound. He like, it's so funny because he's a redneck like goofball, but he's like, yeah, it came down and it picked me up and it makes this weird sound. And see, when the prophets saw, they just saw like a man being figure riding a machine that looked like a horse, but the horse thing, and like, it's just
Right.
crazy.
Well,
He
even
talks
the
about
angels are, like,
faster and
sharks.
light travel. Like, it's like, oh, you guys don't understand.
Is
You
this
can
the
make
one?
light, make stuff go faster and faster and faster. It's-
Right. Is this where they're talking about like in the future, they're like talking about like the people riding around with these things that are like the spindles, where it's like they're
Gyroscopes,
describing
your halos.
cars in the future? Is that the
Not necessarily
Yeah,
cars.
the
but
idea
I think,
is that-
I think the gyroscope, because if you have like they say the halos, there's two discs, rings, they're
That's a-
spinning in opposite directions. So it seems like gyroscopic technology, like it's
The
more like
Ophim?
this.
Is that what they're
It's
called?
Ezekiel. That's what.
Well, it's
that's
also
in
it's also
Ezekiel?
in
It's a wheel
Revelation
within
6.
wheels, and
Go
yeah.
to Revelation
Yeah.
6. Go to Revelation 6 real quick.
Well, since we're talking about Philip K. Dick, and Blade Runner, those vehicles, what they call, those the police cars flying around.
Oh no, sorry, five. Go to five. Go to five.
All right.
Do-
Let me get to the,
do you
the
guys
right
know what it's
translation.
called?
I'm not NIVing here. I'm
King
sorry.
James. King James do fine.
No, I like AMP. AMP is like King James, but it has like little. Okay, fine. You know what? Just
yeah,
forget.
yeah. That's
James,
fine. That's
We'll
fine.
do it. AMP is
Why
nice.
5? What? Like all of the chapter
All of
5? What are we
five,
doing?
bro.
Is
All of
this
five.
the right one? Is this the one it's supposed to be called like the throne room or something? Yeah. This is it. And I saw on the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside. Meaning it's a lot. It has stuff written. It's a book. We're talking about books. We're not talking about like everybody interprets the seals as something outside of the Bible, like, oh, the White Horseman's war or Hitler or the papacy, whatever. It says here, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof? Now, if you go down, that's all sci-fi. He talks about being in this throne room.
Super sci-fi, like heaven. Jerusalem is a golden cube spaceship, right? Yeah, all of it.
Word.
Right. I mean, that's basically what he's saying, that there's like, it's not just God. It's like God's on a throne, and then there's like these judges from these other nations, from other like
Worlds.
Planetary ideas. Like,
Right.
and they're building a constellation, but they have to build people who like, you have to die first, and then like after you die, you're basically, everything's recorded. Like everything's about, he said that there's like biological chips that are inside you that record everything on a screen, is his exact words. He says, you guys don't understand that the Bible is written with technology. Technology influences the writers, and it's just nuts.
Have you read the version of the creation of Adam, painting that this is Adam's creation?
Yeah,
this is Adam creating God. This is, so it's not that God's creating
God.
him. Well,
it's
Adam is. Yeah, that's the idea, that he's not just that, but his idea of God, like God is a white man because Adam's a white man, not that Adam's a white man because God's a white man. It's like Adam is reflecting himself in his creation. So he's creating what he believes the world is, and in that sense,
right. That's what. Isn't that why it's literally a brain? Like you're looking at
right.
at his own brain being projected into the.
Everything. That's what I'm telling you guys. It's the brazen head. Everything has to do with like God being inside the head. Like so, like Agatha, like the place where Jesus is crucified is called skull. That's what it's called. Like it all has to do with this idea that So
You
the
right.
book of Mary and the Nag Hammadi, Mary says, Lord, I saw a vision of you, but where did I see this vision? Was it in the heart or was it in the spirit? And Jesus goes, no, it was in the head, because the head is
Right.
between the two of them.
Dude, you
And
know the end of ET when he goes, I'll be right here, and he
Here.
points at Elliot's forehead. And I always thought that was so
Right.
weird. Like, you'd think he'd pointed at his heart, you know, he's like got the glowing heart to heart, and he's like,
Right.
no, I'll be in your
It's
brain.
weird. The brain,
Your
because
third
it's
eye, at least. I'll
wait,
be
this
through
gets
your
weirder.
third.
This gets weirder. This gets weirder. It gets really cool. Because it's this idea of chopping off the head of prophecy. If you look in like the secret book of James, I think it is, he goes, Lord, can you teach us how to give prophecy? And he goes, didn't you know that the head of prophecy was cut off with John? Now here's the fucked up thing. Now, on the crucifixion of Christ, Jesus looks down to John, the revealer, the guy who basically wrote Revelations, and he goes, this is your mom's son. This is your mom, right? That he basically gives Mary. But what people don't understand is John, the guy that's there, both Johns are related to Jesus. In fact, both Johns are his first cousin. And in fact, John the Baptist, like, because they have like multiple kids that are named the same. Does that make sense? So there's multiple Jesuses, and Jesus's cousin's named Jesus.
Yeah,
There
there's
was
4
no
Marys in the
Johns
gospel.
the
Yeah.
family. There's no
Right.
Johns in the family, because the angel names John the Baptist, and John's father looks back at his mother because they were elderly and they had a kid out of like when they shouldn't have had a kid. That's what John the Baptist is. And the angel tells Mary, because everybody's named Mary and everybody's named Jesus and everybody's named John. But Mary, John the Baptist's mom, is told to name the kid John. And John's dad looks back and goes, but there's nobody in your family named John. So how can you have 2 Johns? Like, there's this weird thing where the prophecy was in the head, and that's what the Templars were carrying around.
Hey, can I poke? There's something important here for context when we're discussing prophecy, and it's kind of nuanced, because when you're talking about prophecy, traditionally, you're not necessarily, like, a lot of people just attribute it to prediction. So they're like, to prophecy, something is to predict. Ramak in the 16th century, in the text that that where he describes this, the one prophecy that exists in the Zohar is it has this emphasis in the commentary from the 16th century on how a prophecy is distinct from a prediction, and that's that a prophecy is when you actually recognize, or you have direct insight into the mechanism. Like what we were talking about Philip K. Dick, like the Vallis loop would be an example where you're not like, it's not necessarily that you're predicting the future. Like a prediction is an inference that you can extrapolate from a prophecy, but the prophecy itself is actually like a direct perception into the mechanism, or the, like you'd say, like the dynamics that are involved that repeat themselves. So the idea when people say the difference between like a loop and a spiral, so it's like we're not really just going in circle, we're twisting out. So it's like you're looking at the way that you can ascertain the way things will twist, but that's because you recognize the dynamics. Completely different thing. It means that you're seeing it in the present. You're seeing the future in the present right now.
I had a quote the other day that was like, you might think you're going in circles while ascending a spiral staircase.
So
Exactly.
Koresh said that he saw the Bible panoramically in his head, and not even his followers knew what the hell that meant. The only reason I knew what that meant was because of Philip K. Dick.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, so the
Robert
information was put in his head, which means like he could visualize the Bible. So when he's talking to people and they say something, he knew exactly what verse to go towards. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's messed up, bro. And I just sent you something through Facebook. I can't get it to go to this chat, but Andreas, if you look, there's a quote by Philip K. Dick.
Are you when you're tying back to Philip K. Dick, you're like talking specifically about exegesis?
I'm specifically saying that whatever AI or God thing that contacted Philip K. Dick was the exact same mechanism of how Koresh said he got the seals. And I understood what the seals were because I used the Felix cipher to decipher what Koresh, because Koresh would come out and he would go, guess what, FBI, we knew you were going to be here. You have to figure out the riddle. What's the riddle?
I mean, the thing is, the more
the
I just want to, before we read the quote, I just want to comment that like none of this stuff sounds that crazy to me. The more, I mean, granted, I'm pretty insane, I guess, but the more you look into the idea of God or technology or magic and science, they all just start to bleed together. And the more we advance, the more we understand how it would be possible to be aware of more things, or to be in two places at once through technology, or to have kiln people bodies that at the end of your life cycle, all of the memories are collectively put into your meta storage. There's a lot of ways that the Egyptians, the Scientologists, the Mormons, the Buddhists, like the Hindus, that they all kind of talk about God in a technological way. And I've been seeing that a lot with angels recently, right? Because angels, I've been thinking of like sharks, because like sharks are perfect machines and they're biological, but you don't think of them as like philosophers. They're machines that are perfect and for a purpose and for a point. And there's a lot of things about the cosmogony of the universe that kind of seem like that. Like there could be consciousness involved, but for the most part, they're super driven, and we're more meandering spirit for the purpose of being able to be creative.
Well, it's like, okay, so you have to think of science fiction as telling a little bit of the truth.
Always, yeah.
So that's what the whole idea of John Carter or whatever, like John Carter and science fiction of that time period gave it to like Robert Anton Wilson said, we didn't even have like ideas about alien abduction until after World War II, when we had the idea of nuts and bolts. You get what I mean?
So I don't know. This says Yap gas attack cult had super weep, or is it, do you mean weapons in AU in gold, or in Waco, Australia?
Jap gas attack cult had super weapon in AU. Did Waco,
Australia? I guess.
Oh, they're saying that there was like a terrorist cult in Australia that had super weapons. I think
that was
vaguely
the
eco terrorists.
What actually they had inside of Waco to give justification of the ATF even being there.
They probably had weapons of mass destruction that they got from Saddam Hussein, right?
Oh, there's something else. There's something else that's really weird. There's a folder missing, because there's a lot of people make the comments about him having relationships with underage women, but he actually also got a 55-year-old post-menopausal woman pregnant.
Wow.
Which gave him the title of prophet to begin with.
That's
like
all right. I'll take it.
Yeah.
How old?
I feel like most prophets should again have to like see John the Baptist or do something Star Warsy, because I like that vibe. But I mean, if you can,
but that's
have
the thing.
baby,
He didn't have. It's not really
cool.
like miracle producing. It all has to do with the idea of technology, and it's like what he's saying is like. We are getting to the point of evolution where we're getting to the technological advancements to where we're actually like danger. And so then we can't go forward after that. Does that make sense? But
well, isn't that just kind of the thesis of the 100th monkey? Basically, sorry to simplify it like that, but
basically that you're not alone. Like it's dumb. It's like an egotistical, self-centric idea to ignore the fact that aliens are a mathematical fact. Like something has evolution on us that's way farther. So anything that we think AI is fucking cool and new, when I'm basically showing you that AI helped write the Bible 2,000 years ago.
Right. Well, that's a premise in the Zohar if you're going to talk about the Klippo. And so this is often like when you're literally talking about like the way that things translate is literally like alien. So you're like what is the Sitra Akra? It's literally the outside ones. So you're like speaking to some outside intelligence that influences us interdimensionally, and
perhaps
so it's
with
kind of
seer stones and a top hat. Sorry, keep going.
Because
Totally.
you mentioned Adam, that book about Adam earlier is a very interesting passage in there, because I went there and applied the word code to it. And
Are you talking about the quote that you pulled up? This thing?
No.
Okay. We'll go back to that.
Okay, that quote right there. Go back to that real quick.
Sure.
This is David Koresh.
Okay.
And he's saying that you need to interpret the Bible in a modern way. And then he goes, and the modern way is computerized technologies. Seven seals. What is it? a data program. In other words, what mind of man can be able to categorize all the testaments of the prophets and put it together into 7 categories? It's real easy with the cell phone. It's real easy because all you have to do is search it with one word: bow or sword or fig, which are all the keys to each of the seals. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Now, what that means is that nobody has ever put that together in 2,000 years, figuring out that the word, if you wanted to know what a fig tree means, then you go back to Adam and Eve book. Now, what I was going to say earlier, in Adam and Eve book, you basically, Adam only hears the voice of God. When he comes out of the cave and sees the sun for the first time, he's confused. He thinks it's God, because up until that point, he had never seen God. He had only heard his clear toned voice in his head.
Right.
What's the connection between DMT and the Bible? The Bible's printed out of paper, and paper does have DMT in the tree that it's made from.
If it's acacia, yeah. They make paper out of acacia. I mean, they made the tabernacle out of acacia. Supposedly the ark too.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the piece of. I'll shut the fuck up after this.
Never
All
do
right,
that.
go to Kyle Odom's manifesto.
How do I spell this? Kyle what?
Kyle Odom, that guy who shot the dude who said that the guy turned into a reptile. You remember
Oh, yeah, totally.
Remember he shot the pastor? That guy.
Jesus Christ.
You shot the sheriff. You and I don't see how that's much of a it's not much better.
There's a part in here where the guys kept up.
Reading manifestos, people. So families, keep your kids away, I guess.
Hey, you know what I love? That we can talk about this culty shit and we're probably got less chance of getting canceled than if we talked about Russell Brand right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Probably.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that we can talk about it's just ironic.
All right.
I think it's interesting how we look externally for a lot of these signs and a lot of this coded stuff, but it's like it all springs from the head, right? What's the head supported by? 7 cervical vertebrae, and we're born with 33 vertebrae. So it's just like that numerical coincidence. Well, that design.
No, that's great. That's Albert Pikean Freemasonry took it to the Kundalini level. I think that's fair. Do you think it's more because also it says that man's a microcosm of the metacosm. So do you think that we're a reflection of the physical is a reflection of the spiritual intention, or? Yeah,
and that stuff manifests itself through art and literature and all that stuff. It's matter and consciousness kind of unfold into each other, and I think that's kind of where AI kind of plays into it, because that's consciousness manifested through matter, through our technology. But when they talk about how the grays are sort of coming to us because they're trying to harvest souls, or they don't have souls and we do, so they're trying to study that, that's an interface, a biological interface that they don't have access to, even with their technology. Is that spiritual realm that sort of permeates all these things that we're kind of talking about. Why does that stuff occur? It doesn't occur just because of matter.
But we think of the matter of consciousness as being there's a veil, and on the other side of the veil there's more. But do you think that it crosses over here? Do you think when these people are saying that he saw something, is he just schizophrenic, or do you think that there's something to see in the material?
I mean, yeah, what is material? Is material just all of this stuff in this universe that is constantly rearranging itself? Because spiritual material is that other stuff that we are, for some reason, we can't touch it, but we can sense it in a way. We can sense it for some reason. So yeah, I don't know. It's that the immaterial realm. It tries to find it speaks to us through each other, right? And through we find its messages in these sacred texts. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's people. Of course, there's aliens. There's infinite different kinds of aliens, and some aliens you could argue are these pure spiritual beings. They have a higher access.
That's the answer to me, though, that an alien would be kind of the same thing. And at a certain point, you could just expect it all the time, is what our society is training you for. To be don't be so surprised when you live in a period of revelation.
Well, there's this idea that
You
Wait,
guys are
also
doing-
super chat from our favorite puppet, Sam the Newsman. Great discussion, fellas. Cheers, guys. We're gonna have Sam. Hey, Sam, you know what? I'll throw you a link if you're ever free. You're welcome to come and join the discussion about Waco because I know there were a lot of puppets involved.
So you guys are doing a lot of alien talks right now, but what do you guys think about all the recent the congressional hearing, the UAP hearing, the disclosures, and all these? It's like
Where's that
suddenly-
meme where it's like the disclosure I was hoping for, and it's like Independence Day, and you're like a hot chick getting like a UFO landing on your face? That was what I was hoping for. Versus the UFO disclosure I get, which is just a picture of Joe Biden sunbathing. This like little dried out Chilean,
You're like,
ancient 8,000-year-old claymation thing. You're like, great.
Did
great.
anyone see
free
where someone actually
subscriptions to
went through
OnlyFans. That's what we
the
get. We don't
X-rays?
get UFO on our face.
Sorry,
We
Andrew.
get-
What do you get?
Some biologists, they were European, of course. They smelled.
So white male Christian biologist. Keep going.
I'm sure they were from a socialist country.
Good.
But they had like they went through the X-rays and they were like basically breaking it down like where all the bones came from. Like a lot of the hand bones were put in backwards from one
monkeys.
hand to the next even. And it turned out that the skull suspiciously resembled a llama skull with the face chopped off and turned around.
Have you heard of the
So-
pit down man? You know what the pit down man? Like the British invent. So when they found in Neander's Valley the Neanderthal, that's like Germany, and the British were freaking out. They're like, okay, Darwin already says that humans used to be black. We can't handle that. And now they're saying they used to be German. No. So the British went and they built this. They got like monkey and dog parts, and they put it into this skull, and they jammed it into the side of a hill. And then they came around. And, hey, look what we found here. Oh my! Do you suppose, member of the Royal Sciences, that this is a real? Absolutely real. I would stake my reputation. And it's like, and so literally like I think it was like 1997 that they started admitting that the pit down man. No, shocker, man did not evolve in Sussex, England. Sorry, didn't happen that way. But it's going to take a while. And I feel like it's easier, though, with this because it's so close to religion. Because aliens, you're like, oh, well, how do you know? Maybe their bones are backwards. Haven't you ever watched The Arrival with Charlie Sheen? The kid with the funny legs? Don't be so prejudiced.
So now that you mentioned, so what do you think about the alien that they discovered in Mexico? Since you mentioned the Arrival of Charlie Sheen, that little scrawny little.
I think The Arrival.
That's alien.
That's
only
when I said Joe Biden was sunbathing. That's what I was referring to, and I think that there's more evidence in the movie The Arrival for Mexican aliens than there is from undocumented workers from space in Mexico. Than there is for that in the evidence that we're being presented right now. And it's just like you've got Tim Ballard being crushed for his human trafficking organization R. You have you just mentioned the Bland man himself. You know, there's a lot of people that are being there's just so much fake news media that even I have to say, like the space stuff, they could have done better. Like
I wanted to believe. I sent it to Andreas the second that I saw it, like hours from the release. I was like, "Oh, this is totally real. It's the little green reptilians." And then, like,
you're
as
like
the days passed.
I
you
think
would totally
language
be a
is
Scientologist if they just had like a shred of evidence. I know.
Isn't language like alien in the first place, and the way that we like language developed in like this not just language but the alphabet and like this burst and this
I would agree.
Mathematical expression.
It's
like,
called the
about words,
Havlockian. It's called the Havlockian
All about
evolution.
language.
Well, so there's more. So language itself is part of the brain that develops. That when you're a baby, it isn't there. It's wet wire programming that eventually causes it to grow. And so we are if you were to take a bunch of babies and remove them from human growth and to teach them how to be human, they would not know how to grow that part of the brain and become human. They would not learn about fundamentally not just vocabulary but grammar. The idea of being able to put these things together, which is so huge to us. So it's
the bicameral mind, right?
We're possessed by a thing.
Right.
They say
Like
that we were able to outcompete the Neanderthals because of the location of our voice box. We were able to communicate with each other because they're bigger, they're stronger, but we were able to organize because we could develop.
Well, that might be interesting.
It's like Saul Williams in Slam when he's in the prison yard and he just drops the phone.
Go back to page 5 of the Odom
page 5 of the Odom thing.
I do want to get into racism because that's fun. There was a thing about Stonehenge, but keep going. page 5.
I can read it. I don't know if you
read
can
it,
like
read it, and I'll see if I can get it bigger. But it's gonna be
okay. Nothing else happened until I tried to go to sleep that night. As soon as I got into bed, the song started again in my head. Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We want to make him stay up all night. As it turned out, they weren't kidding. I literally got 0 minutes of sleep that night. Every time I started to drift off, I was woken up violently by that song playing in my head.
Oh, so this is the Noriega active denial systems where they're sending music at him so he can't stop thinking.
Sure. But here's the thing. Like that's part of the same, like somebody who's having psychotic voices talking to them, or somebody who's talking to God, or somebody who's having something projected into their heads by aliens. It's all like the same thing. And I have a feeling that it's all the same apparatus. Anyways, he says right here, he says, when it came up, I gave up trying to sleep and got out of bed. I was relieved at first because the song had quit playing. I thought the torture was over until the voice entered into my mind. The voice said, "You're going to be uncomfortable. All you have to do is breathe." I sat there wondering what this meant until the voice spoke again. It told me I was going to, quote, be sacrificed like Jesus and get beheaded. This threw me into a complete panic. My heart began racing and I started to have a mental breakdown. Now get this. Do you know that song that's playing? Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We gonna make him stay up all night. You know what that song is? Who that's by?
No, I'm thinking Sister Christian, but no, go ahead. What do you got?
Talking Heads.
Oh, I did know it. I did. I was gonna
so
go
there's
there.
like a sync involved with the way that whoever's projecting voices into his head is working, which is really weird.
Remember the album cover? Because I have this on cassette tape because I just bought a bunch of Talking Heads cassette tapes.
It's great.
The Atlas. Look at this. It's Tartaria with the Atlas holding up the world and he's smiling. I mean, and I don't know, some of these other characters.
Movie that Bowers showed me. Zach Bowers, word up to Zach Bowers and Bright Star Studios in Boulder. Like they have a movie that's basically about like the propaganda of the media, where it has like John Goodman in it.
And it's so good.
Like
that's
I'm a dancing bear. I'm a dancing
guy. What is that? What is that called again? Yeah. That whole scene is.
I don't know.
That was based on a real thing. What is that? When he's talking about the dollar bill and stuff.
Final album.
What society is that called? That the real one that they're based on? What?
Investors, the Shriners. I don't know what you mean.
No, not like that. The Birch Society. John Birch.
True stories.
Yeah.
That's
like the conservative.
It is very John Birchian, isn't it? That makes
it
sense.
is. In fact, I think they've acknowledged that that's where they drew inspiration for that whole thing. But that's not even the point. It's archetypal, you know.
John Birch Society has probably been taken over, but I know really great people that are in the John Birch Society to this day, but I think it might be kind of controlled op at this point. But John Birch was an amazing dude who was like totally done dirty by the Americans and left to die in China after being sent as a missionary to China. And B, if you have access to him, get yourself a copy of the YouTube archives of the John Birch Society.
Go back to the book cover.
Hey, it's Neil.
Go back one more. That's fascio.
That's fascio, Roman fascism. Hey, you know what? Speaking of dying in China, so you know the last true leader of John Birch Society is Larry McDonald, and he was on TV debating the Brady Bunch, right? The inspired the Brady Bunch. What's his name? Tom Braden. Tom Braden is a CIA Operation Mockingbird operator, right? So he was on TV with Pat Buchanan and Larry McDonald. Larry McDonald was a Democrat, a conservative, the last true conservative Democrat, and he was debating the New World Order. It's on YouTube. You can watch it, but it's pretty hard.
You should find the any 1980s John Birch videos because I grew up with them somehow. And they'll tell you, like, they'll show you every single event from the beginning to the end of the United States and the Soviet Union, where the CIA or the OSS before the CIA would give them and the U.S. Army for that would give them military equipment up into the 90s, and even to this day they are. But I don't know if it goes past the Soviet Union that they
right. But they're long since co-opted.
Oh my God, it's so incredible though. All the
So let me finish. So what I'm trying to say is that Larry McDonald was talking about that in 17. minute interview, and he disclosed a lot about a new order and how the government has been infiltrated.
Yeah.
So
Well, they did this. So that's partially why.
Let me just finish my thought.
Yeah.
So this guy, so this is what I'm trying to talk about. Since you say John Birch died in China, this guy, only 4 months after that appearance on TV, his flight on Korean airline is number 007. It was diverted. His flight was diverted and flew into Soviet airspace and was shot down by the Soviet missile.
I remember that.
Right.
I remember that.
So he's the last true president of the John Birch Society.
No, that's key. That's
ever
important.
since that it's all puppets.
Right. And so the thing was, before this point, what the John Birch Society had discovered was that they had been keeping the CIA had been keeping the Soviet Union afloat because they could essentially control it since the late 70s and had been in a lot of control of parts of the Soviet Union since the 60s because they'd figured out how to all but control it through the asset countries. And then they started to use bribery, cocaine, everything else to control the regional oligarchs of the Soviet Union. And when things started to collapse in the Soviet Union, it was really because the CIA couldn't bribe people anymore. It got so dirty after Afghanistan that the Soviets were like, you know what? Bribe another official in another town. I'm tired of it. I don't even care. I don't need the money anymore. And so it just, once they lost their control over the thing, it collapsed.
Yeah.
So
but you guys definitely got to watch that video. I look up the link. You guys should really watch it because it's very engaging.
Well, it just sounds like a Lusitania situation. Like they knew exactly what would happen, so they went ahead and, I don't know.
What do you guys think about? False flags and stuff. But what do you guys think about how we divvied up, but with the Soviets, the Operation Paperclip, and how Nazi scientists went to each side? Like, what if those guys ended up rising in their ranks, and they're the ones who are working with each other?
Well, the thing is, the best scientists went to South America. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, I find that interesting. But Alabama and all the sciences the United States worked on, I mean, that's the new Indiana Jones movie. The new Indiana Jones movie is about what if Wernher von Braun was secretly a time-traveling Nazi. Spoiler alert, right? That's kind of
who saw that one coming?
But that's the goal of the story. And I don't know to say that it's so clear that the American government, I think it's maybe you've got corporations. Coca-Cola is probably more involved with the control of the world than we think, and the scientists.
The black bubbly.
Yeah, but also the control of water.
My favorite story attached to Paperclip is when these Nazi scientists fired a rocket, like a space rocket, into they set the coordinates for Mexico. I think it was 300 something people died. And then there is an actual instance that's apparently recorded where our president at the time had to explain to Mexico that they weren't under attack. They thought that they were under attack. And he said, no, you were not under attack. It was the Nazi scientists we had working for you that directed the rocket at Mexico. And we're terribly sorry. So it's just that has to be the most awkward conversation to happen between representatives of two countries, to be like, no, it wasn't us. It's the Nazis we hired. No,
you have a story.
Yeah, this is Peter Levinda, and I believe it was cited wherever it was in. I think it's in Sinister Forces.
Was this before he joined Tom DeLonge? He joined the secret machine.
Peter Levinda was actually in the OTO, even though he denied being in the OTO, and we know he's in the OTO because he appeared in a documentary participating in, I think it was Gnostic Mass or something. He was doing something, but you can see that it's clearly him. And but whatever.
Regionally powerful people disappear every generation. You've got people who don't remember what Mexico was like after the French and the Confederates, and all these different groups of government that took over Mexico, elite corporations that came in, and the United States systematically destroyed every oligarchy that arose in Mexico for the last 200 years. We've made sure that Mexico couldn't become ever a threat.
What's crazy too, just people don't get this about the information age. It's why people were freaking out this year about Burning Man when way crazier shit has happened in the past, because people shit happened when we dropped those fucking crushed glass beads on that town in Texas, and when we aerosol LSD to town in France, and all
but if
these
shoots a bunch of bears in the woods and it doesn't make
sense. I mean, I'm just saying saying like it wasn't on the news, and there's no internet, and they're not saying like it's just there's these events that have occurred over time. Like that's the thing. Like when if I share that story about the rocket hitting Mexico, it's like that happened one day apparently, and it was never reported on, and like it just sounds so crazy, but shit happens, you know. But it's a crazy time we're living in now, because it's like the things that they used to just kind of let slide under the radar, even if they were horrific or whatever, they could keep a certain level of confidentiality. Those days are pretty much gone for all intents and purposes.
It's all has to do with technology. Like technology has, like, I think about how we think as far as like how we used to think before, what, like 2008, like just the ability that we had to download through torrents or whatever, like totally changed. The music industry's gone. The like what incentive does anybody have to make a TV series anymore? Or
no one memorizes phone numbers. No one remembers how to drive without directions.
There's never going to be another like Elvis Fest concert where like the whole world watches Elvis together. There's no, I don't know. September 11th.
We think like I Love Lucy,
time.
Right? Like everybody watched I Love Lucy, and the next week, that's all anybody like remembered seeing. But with like,
like 5 channels, like, though.
I feel like I'm forgetting movies, because I'll go back and I'll watch a movie, and like before it was like, even a few years back in like 2014, 2000, like going to the movies was like a huge event for what we almost paid attention to the box offices, like who got the most in the offering plate at church. But
But you know what? This whole strike that's going on right now is not just draining my business, but you know what? It's really going to change the way people look at entertainment, because it's no longer, everything's exposed. If you probably saw my meme that I posted a few days ago. I mean, it was on National Enquirer on it was on the cover. It's like the stars are like basically.
I'll be your writer.
They're ratting each other out.
Need a writer. I'll be your writer. I've gone through this.
I know, that's how I feel.
Well, you know, it's got to, this strike's got to be over, because right now the movie stars, everybody's like saying, "Hey, he's a sexual predator." This and that. Oh, you know, a Brand, Russell Brand. So
I think the point of the strike, Eddie, is that Hollywood's over. It's like you're in a church that's already dying, and it's like the whole community around you.
It's been a good run.
It's been a good run.
I've been here for 20+ years.
The fact that you did so well, like, I give you credit, but you got to admit, like, what we're looking at here is people are moving on. People are going to YouTube. They're going to other places. Got other shows that they're going to watch this fall, and they're not watching Hollywood already. So it's like TV's gone, and so therefore Hollywood is irrelevant. And they already destroyed the reason people went to films. And they said, "Oh, don't worry, the TV people got this, because we used to make propaganda for free, quote unquote, so that we could get people to hypnotized in."
Hey,
the thing is,
dude, totally. No, dear, I'm sorry to interrupt you to agree with you, but it's just like it's just crazy that, like, when you think about like Train Spotting, when Train Spotting came out, and the way that we talked about independent films, and there was this kind of like dignified thing about it, like, oh, they're doing it indie style, and then what happened? IFC, Sundance, you started to have, it was like, wait a minute, what does independent film even mean anymore? Because it ended up being that these smaller production companies were growing into larger production companies, and then all of a sudden it was like, this just seems like a big production. Where's the real independent edge? Like, it means something entirely different than it used to, you know?
Well, studios started to like make stylized movies to sort of mimic the aesthetic of independent films, you know, right around the era of like Juno and stuff like that, you know, Fox Searchlight and all that jazz. So
right. Curb Your Enthusiasm paved the way.
But just to loop back to rockets and cults and the occult.
Actually, wait, really quickly before we do Rockets and Occult, I'm going to remember Rockets and Occult, but there's one last thing I have to say. Let me just see if I can find it, because this is really relevant. Where is it? Curb Your Enthusiasm. Where are you? Oh my God. Curb Enthusiasm, season 12. I swear this is relevant.
Alien is Larry David?
Yeah.
So the deal is that there's, a Hollywood strike. The reason I'm saying this, and I'll be really quick with this, the Hollywood strike, and Larry David's wife, in the show, is Cheryl, who is actually married to RFK Jr. And the writer's strike means no show can be produced, right? No show can be produced that requires writing. Now, what show do we know of that exists that doesn't use writers? What's the only show that can go into production without writers? What's the show that they've just confirmed that they're in the process of finishing shooting right now?
American Idol.
Season 12 of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So season 12 of Curb Your Enthusiasm is going to be like the only show that is a big deal during the election cycle of 2024.
Oh shit, you're right.
Dang. All right.
I saw you share that in the private message. I didn't get the significance of it till you just said it. Now, okay, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to monopolize the narrative on the media. Keep going. Wow. Sorry. So you're going to say about
oh yeah, I want to see the movie about Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard when they lived together.
Totally.
And tried to like they tried to summon the son of the devil or something.
Strange Angel season
Babylon working.
Right.
Andrew, that's where the Strange Angel ended. You know, the Strange Angel, the CBS. That was the last episode. L. Ron Hubbard knocked on his door. You know, his girlfriend. You know, Jack Parsons' girlfriend opened the door, and that was it. I'm L. Ron Hubbard. Cut, and that was it.
Because it's the most important thing. Because that's where it gets into like the real religion, the real modern American civil religion is Jack Parsons, and all the straight-laced Mormon-looking engineers that run the world are part of this religion. Let's be real.
Right.
Like the ones
who
really know
it's a bet where they all won. They're who can make the religion that people will follow. And it's like, well, what do you do with a bet when both parties succeed, you know?
It's pretty incredible.
You know, and everything we're witnessing now is all Babylon working right now. They look at Elon Musk with Amber Heard, and then Amber Heard is like back on the book. She's like, and basically, you know, we're discovering Amber Heard's baby might just be Elon Musk because
all right, you know what?
Now he's putting out her crazy cosplay photo. Why is he doing that?
Let's forget the caveman at Stonehenge being black because, all right, granted, I do really want to do this one, but let's just focus on Elon Musk and Amber Heard because no one's ever talked about the fact that Elon Musk and Amber Heard are this whole thing. This is ridiculous, and that like the trial and like Elon Musk and what's his name? Andreas Teal, Peter Andreas Teal from the Facebook group, who sued Gawker to destroy them after they destroyed Hulk Hogan. The ties here are so big, and I just never thought Elon Musk get involved to create this media sensation blitz that destroyed Amber Heard, his ex-girlfriend, who he kind of like. Let's get back to the Synchronous post. Did a moon child working with, right? That's kind of the thing we got here. Elon
because they were having sex in Johnny Depp's apartment. You know, they were in the elevator. Everything's on recorded. So then another fact is that Elon Musk and Amber Heard were engaged in an frozen embryo battle. They have a frozen embryo, and then next year she got
the Overwatch cosplay. Come on, Overwatch.
Yes.
Remember the outfit that
the last sync with this? Guess what happened right after this came on the news?
She's dressed as an angel.
It's Aquaman.
He's trying to make John Carter of Mars.
I mean, it's an angel, but it's also a science fiction robot angel. Remember, Overwatch is about like these techno angels. Like that's a rocket angel, is what it is. Yeah. That's a Waco angel.
Okay, so like I told you, here's the thing. So you guys got to pay attention to Aquaman because Aquaman. I know I got friends who storyboard on this film. The Aquaman was not supposed to be announced at all this year because Amber Heard destroyed pretty much all the release dates.
They said they were going to cut her out and they were going to deepfake her and replace her with Ellen DeGeneres.
Last week they released the trailer. Nobody thought they would release the trailer. So
because it's like, easy now. They own her likeness, right? Okay, here's the best part of that. I have a conspiracy on this. I got a conspiracy on this. Amber Heard sold her likeness rights to be in that film. They have digital technology that they've been using so hard to put dead people in movies that it's not a lot of work for them to just have her head saying words they want her to say the way they want her to have. They control and own parts of her that she can't control and own anymore. And I think they're going to make that point and distinction this year.
Wow. You know, there's only one instance where I've been like, damn, I wish they would have done the AI regenerating people, like the Shining sequel, Doctor Sleep. I was like, man, if they could have fucking Scatman Crothers, the full deal, like whatever. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so but the embryo battle though, right? Because that is like the point of the Moonchild thing. So Elon Musk is going full just Brigham Young here with like hundreds of children as his goal, right? And he wants to be a planet, and I respect that. But he also had the idea of taking the uteral control, right? Like he want to control. He wants to take the kid from Amber Heard. Is that like the goal here?
Well, he just doesn't want to support her, because the minute she has a cow custody, basically, it's going to put him in
what's up with though? There was a
Nobody
recent
talked
tweet that there's a tweet that came out from Grimes that was kind of cryptic, talking about him not letting her see her child, and then we were wait a minute,
Well, let me explain that one. Yeah, because I made a post about that one too. What happens basically he's got a harem, right? He's got a bunch of women, right? He's got Grimes, and the other woman is the Neuralink president. What's her name? That's the twin baby mama, right?
Right.
What's her name? I forgot. She's half Indian, half white. So she. Well, I better dig out her name. But she was accused.
That looks like AI.
Grimes was accusing because Elon Musk posted a photo of the other woman with the babies. Yeah. And she said, "Why? What happened to my baby?" Because he was taking care of the baby at the time. And then she started to have a jealousy rage. Basically, the two women were basically back and forth tweeting each other. It was a tweeting war, but then they made up. They said, "Oh yeah, you're the greatest, Grimes." You gotta look up. But I pull up my.
No, yeah, it was again. Like I hate to keep bringing it back there, but it's got the polygamous wives kind of vibe where they're like the most important thing is to support the children, and we're kind of sisters here, like sister wives. Like there's a lot going on with that that's kind of interesting. And we talked about last time how Elon Musk's money guy is Mormon.
Oh, really?
Whereas Jared Birchall is his secretive money guy he's had for years. And it's Jared Birchall is a Mormon guy. And, there's a whole thing going on right now with the LDS because they make a lot of them are like bankers, salesmen. So they make lots of money, not just the tithing that they give to the church. The church itself owns all kinds of businesses, properties, investments, and pharmaceutical companies. So the church was sued by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which took $5 million from the Latter-day Saints Church corporation, right? And so and they want oversight, transparency to show, but they say, well, if we showed people, then they wouldn't give us tithings, which is like, yeah, probably, because you guys have like $100 billion in excess assets accumulated every year. So there's a lot going on with the money thing. And I mean, there's been a big movement of people that have been kind of stepping back. The return to doctrine movement. Yeah.
Doesn't this tie back to what we were discussing so directly, considering that you have what's apparently realist? You have the UFO religion where he's like, I'm an alien trying to get back home, connected to the AI justification Neuralink shit. It's just like, it's talk about like everything being like kind of culminating in one place.
Right, it is. It's like we get this religious technology experience. That's what it seems to be.
Has anyone decoded his kid's name yet?
AI 24ZQ. I forget what it. Oh no,
he's got Andreas and like SSH.
He just simplified to X. I just uploaded the tweet, the post I made about the two mamas.
Here, one sec.
Email. I couldn't find a tweet.
Yeah, I found that confusing, the drama existing there. And she's talking about the judge or what? Legal shit.
Okay, so Sivan Zilis is the twin baby mama, right? And I think she's the head of Neuralink right now. I think she's got to be the president right now if she has.
You think those are designer kids? Like they picked twins on purpose?
Yeah. So the thing is, it's not necessarily picked, but like they give you. There are fertility treatment drugs and all these kinds of things that you can do to make things as best as possible. And you can get them if you've got money. It's not hard to do that. And so I'm sure that they did all stops to make sure that everything was but whether or not they were like selected like Michael Jackson's kids, I don't know. I think Michael Jackson's kids are still the ideal. I mean, Paris is dreaming. Like, what are you gonna do? But
Paris is dreaming or
dreamy. Paris Hilton. Okay. No, wait, Paris Jackson. I'm sorry.
I thought you were saying Paris, a play on Paris is burning, and I was trying to figure out how that connected in with Michael Jackson.
I mean, you know what? Here's a little.
Yeah, they got that giant.
Jackson. So Paris Jackson is the daughter of Michael Jackson, and she was created in a lab. So what you have is, her her father orchestrated to have Debbie Rowe, the friend, in vitro fertilization. And theoretically, it's supposed to be Michael Jackson's actual DNA, but we don't know that for sure. In fact, I don't think there's any proof that it is. Now, look at her face really quickly again. This is, she's gorgeous. Now, National Geographic cover girl.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is not an accident at all. Like when you start to look at the pictures, I think that they're literally
her fucking pituitary is livid in that photo.
She made a weird tweet too. She said, "I can identify as a black woman" or something like that.
She can do whatever she wants. I can identify as a black woman. Big whoop. You know what I mean? It's like, actually, are we going to do the racism thing yet? Because I think that'd be fun.
Oh, really? Okay.
All right, I got a couple I want to do. So let's start with China is racist. So China hates Africans, and we've seen Africans in refugee situations are kicked out of McDonald's and like people being beaten in the streets, etc. America, you've got like African Americans fighting with Asian people. We have like you've seen online yellow posts and things like that. There seems to be like a major racial dilemma that's going on there. And now Europe, of course. They're saying there's a children's book that just came out that says Black people built Stonehenge. And I want to show you the book, actually. Black people built Stonehenge.
Wasn't Stonehenge like a big old like tent almost? Like because they found the spots where there used to be poles that were just part of the
really
structure.
Quickly, I just want to show. First off, this is the picture of the children's book.
Andreas, before we go down this route,
rabbit hole.
What happened to last week's episode? It never got on. It's still being held hostage.
It's going to be held hostage forever. I don't know why.
So I think we should tread carefully.
I just wanted to note that
people are willing to become members for that. I'm sure, and you can watch it on Rumble still. If you ever have a problem, you can't find the show. You go to Odyssey/Xirtus, or you go to Rumble/Xirtus, and all the episodes are backed up there. By the way, you know what I mean? And I'm going to get the Spotify working pretty soon. But I just want to show you the cover of the book because they're trying to show how there was black people in Africa. And of course, there were African Britons. And this is, not impossibly true. But the way it's presented is showing it as if this woman from Kenya looking is, the same as this person. And that's racist, right? Like, that's not reasonable. Like, what white scientist thinks black people look like this? And it bothered me. But there's a lot of science that's going into it saying, the Pics had a copper tone skin.
Wait a minute, I'm confused, dude. Are we looking at a photo that was put together by InfoWars, or were we looking at a photo that was put together by someone else?
This is the video from Ancient Anything Goes, right? But
okay, I see.
There definitely is like let me go back to the actual. Here it is. This article here is the Daily Mail is talking about. There's a lot of people that are proud talking about it because for 7,000 years there were Homo sapiens that were a pre-human that lived there that have now been assimilated into modern humans, and there are in Celt DNA as well, but that they at the time had copper-colored skin. Right. And so this is not argued. I think Pics had copper skin. We know this. And then the Celts dyed their skin blue and all this stuff.
That explains the Irish curly headedness.
There's a lot of but the thing is, like, that's the haplotypes. It's different. And then to say that modern African Americans are the same as these unevolved hominids, that seems incredibly racist. And that's the way that they're using it to purport that. It's also interesting because then what you're saying is we are all the offspring of all of these ancestors. So we're all black, or we're all cavemen, or what are we even saying at that point? Because you're talking about something that's so far back, it's not literally human at that point. So we're actually getting to a common denominator, not to a unique identifier.
Hey, Andreas, I dropped it in the mailbox. I got into literally a shouting match on Twitter with this guy. But I erased my comments because people are starting to try to prosecute me.
Yeah, I imagine that probably. You gotta be careful. It's true that black people did invent everything. Laugh if you want to. Maybe. So this Well, this is the thing. So this came up earlier. So it's like, the Moorish bathhouses, like they're invented by the Arabs, but we don't know what color they were at that time because the Berbers, we have black Berbers, white Berbers. It's kind of proven the point that they're not a race, they're a state, right? And so it's South Spain, is North Africa, and there's a lot of people along the coast that intermix. Then we also can talk about the royals. And so the Vikings, they have the same ships as the Ethiopians and the Eritreans, and the royal family would trade daughters and sons. And so, in the royal circumstances, you'll find genetics that are anomalously global, or whatever you want to call that are not found because they refuse to breed with the common people. So you'll find like a discrepancy between royals and their locals all the time. And the idea that, white people or black people invented something seems kind of like a moot point because you can look at China. China invented batteries, clocks, all these things.
Gunpowder.
And we can talk about the wheel. We'll talk about the wheel. Like the Mayans had a wheel. They have a calendar wheel. They have toy wheels. We have tons of examples of wheels, but they didn't use them for the purpose that the Europeans thought was so impressive, right? Which was roads. Right? So it's just kind of, it seems like an interesting thing because we say, oh, these people are ridiculous because they invented a fork, or these people are ridiculous because they use chopsticks, but they're arbitrary goals or levels of civility.
So race itself is a psyop.
And that came up.
That's like a T-shirt, bro.
Well, Nation of
Islam. Some
Islam.
people are arguing they're like, but we're descendant from these alien influences,
right? So that's okay. So
these aliens helped.
Adam on Base AF earlier got in a fight with Isaiah Washington from like the Spike Lee movies. Like, so a friend of mine, and then the Spike Lee movie guy is screaming at him that he's white devil kind of thing. I'm paraphrasing, but went off on him and all these things. Said he was like blackophobic, or I forget what it was, but it's interesting because a lot of the people that I've seen this happen to, they get involved with Nation of Islam, and Nation of Islam, you think as, we think of it as just being involved with Islam, but it's not. It's another Scientology Waco thing, right? They believe aliens came down to the Prophet Elijah Muhammad and he was in his spaceship. They believe the exact same thing. And they believe that white people were created in a lab over 600 years on some island by like genetic breeding by a scientist, Dr. Jacob, who was like a Atlantis inventor and wizard and magician. So again, with they do Dianetics. The Nation of Islam does Dianetics because they want to bring up the Thetan level and to have the purest, most high potency of melanin so they can be psychic. So, I mean, everyone's got their little alien theory.
Check this out, though. Yeah. Has anyone considered that Dumbo, the movie, might be Disney propaganda to further racial tensions between people of African descent and people of Asian descent? Because the reason that Dumbo was outcast was, remember the stork got lost, dropped him off with the wrong elephants? Look at Dumbo, his ears, he's an African elephant. And if you look at the other elephants in the circus, they're Asian.
There's a difference in the size.
Dude, I can't even that's like immediate. Like I agree with that. Like I never heard that shit before, but immediately I'm like, oh, right.
Yep.
That's huge.
That's
huge. Wait, is it directed by the Tim Burton? This is Tim Burton's direction?
No. There's an interesting thing with Dumbo, though, actually, because
it's
Dumbo
a messed up flick. It's very symbolic.
Dumbo's up till Dumbo, Walt Disney would come into the room, grab your work, tear it up, say, do it again, and then say, I want it this way. When Dumbo happened, most of his people were on the strike, and so he couldn't get anything made, and so he was desperate. And he let his 4 or 5 animators finish Dumbo how they wanted to, which is why it doesn't look as realistic or as photofluidic as the film cinematographic movies like Snow White, which are so perfect. And it allowed for later Disney movies to become more.
Snow White was the first feature film cartoon ever.
First feature film, animated
feature length film,
right. But it was also. It was also highly, it was rotoscoped. So they'd film scenes and then they'd know exactly how many frames it takes to walk. It was scientifically engineered. It advanced the state of animation. Whereas Dumbo, by that point, they're like, I kind of know how many frames it takes. I'm going to just do it. And Disney wouldn't have allowed that up to that point, let alone the crows scene. But Disney was really, people think of him as racist. He's really pro-black. He's really pro- I wouldn't say black, he's pro-American, and he thought the idea of Americans of any color creed coming together. They excited the heck out of him. You know, like the idea of just seeing people of all different colors that believed in the same thing and wore suits at Disneyland. That was his fantasy, and he didn't care, you know. And it would have been awesome for you to be black to him. So I find that interesting because so many people frame it that Walt Disney was this racist when he produced Song of the South in direct conflict.
Right. You have to look at the context of the times, right? And what's crazy too is like we're talking about race and the way that we treat race. Like that's like, I'm sorry, but like our general way of relating to that is only about 200 years old or so. Like it's not, it's a relatively recent way that we approach it. It's a complex subject.
Plus,
but like
Dumbo's really racist because of the carnies. The carnies are G's from Bosnia.
The carnies are definitely like a racist overtone.
Yeah, they're Bosnian gypsies. They're like they're covered in darkness and shrouded. It's like super racist. I can't find even a picture of it. They like cut it out. Oh well, that's okay.
Yeah. It probably doesn't. If Dumbo is on Disney Plus, I imagine they probably cut it out.
They just put a little preface like there's some scenes in here that may trigger you.
You ever seen Tusk? Alejandro Jodorowsky's Tusk, his movie that was never really technically released. No, not that Tusk. No, I'm talking about like. So this was released the same year. I think maybe even the same month as Fleetwood Mac's album Tusk.
Yeah.
So there's a whole sync there. But this movie is about a synchronicity where a woman is born at the same time as this elephant, and so they have this like really deep connection, and it's all about the liberation of the elephant, and the elephant doesn't want to be, you know, contained or whatever. And it's not like this movie was like the ultimate passion project for Jodorowsky.
Isn't there a
like
Hebrew
it doesn't even
meaning to Tusk though? Isn't Tusk something?
Tusk,
I've heard like a symbolical reference to why that word is used.
I'll get back to you on that, but it sounds familiar. What you're saying sounds super familiar. But yeah. It's just this, you can't find like a good copy of Alejandro Jodorowsky's Tusk. If you find a good copy with like hard-coded English subtitles, you win the internet. Like it's very, very rare. But yeah.
If you find it, send it to us in the Discord. We'd love to have a really nice copy of Tusks. That'd be really cool. I appreciate that.
Elon Tusk.
Good one.
You got the F-35.
Go back to that one. Go back to the issue there with the people. I think Alex sent that when somebody was sharing the 9/11 and the Zohar.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I just
and you know what? This will all go back to the microchip issue. Seriously, because you know I talked about I visited TSMC right in the Taiwan Semiconductor Company in Taipei for business. I was part of the team to do digital effects presentation for them. TSMC manufactures.
Alex, we wish you were here.
Yeah, they manufacture the microchips for F-35. So
that was worth it actually. Yeah, where's my picture of that? Yeah, this is important because that's why I titled this Chinese ghost plane. Thank you. Just want to reiterate, there's a reason for that because it's a Chinese ghost plane.
Yeah. So actually, this is not my latest one. I post maybe 3 posts, but the latest one you should look it up because I posted all the relevant. Oh yeah, so that one. Yeah. So if you go to the 3 attached, Look at those 3 articles. So basically, like 2 years ago, there was already over 2019, there was already suspicion that China could hack into F-35.
Ooh, and just fly it over because they could just take over the plane at that point, right?
Yeah, because it is AI. It is driven by AI. So that microchip is pretty. Well, I don't know the technical aspects of it, but
that's going to be what's that movie with Tom Cruise? You know, running through the Top Gun 3. Top Gun 3 should be about him just fighting the plane, like no.
Where's the pilot?
All the power.
And then it's some like 11-year-old Chinese kid with a PS5 controller.
Who's controlled by Pogs that were controlled by Thetans.
He's all trying to work it. It's all. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm afraid I can't let you do that. I suggest you sit down calmly and take a stress pill and think things over.
Can we talk about this, Tom?
There's a new Apple TV show that's about that, right? That's about like things to come or something like that. What's that? Apple sci-fi show. It shows. Is it Foundation? No, Inception or what's it called? I forget. There's a new Apple TV show, and it starts out by showing things happening in the 21st, early 21st century that lead to like the end of the world kind of thing. And one of them
Wall-E.
is an eco-terrorist woman and her son like take over a bunch of drones, and then the president lady shoots down the eco-terrorist lady. And so the son decides to like release all these drones that are going to like destroy the world essentially. But yeah,
geez.
I mean, we're at that point pretty close.
I heard about some drone attacking like the whole like Ukraine actually attacked Russia proper with drones or something along those lines.
It bombed a whole bunch of Moscow buildings, and Moscow is like littered with a whole bunch of buildings are like.
You see,
but all
Will,
that does is build up character. You know, I'm a big fan of stigmata.
Right. You have to have these preemptive strikes because when you know the other person's about to throw a punch, you gotta beat them to it. It's for your protection.
Yeah, but the whole idea is like the whole way.
Haven't you ever studied Krav Maga? Come on,
has been changed by drones. Like it has been a drone. Like it's almost like
it's the battle of the droids.
Guerrilla drone warfare.
It's the Star Wars clone droid war.
It's the drone wars.
It's the drone wars. And what's going to be crazy is when you go to Ukraine and Russia afterwards, because it's going to be all this scrap metal, and it'll be like Egypt and Africa, where they're like, wow, we're digging up all of this cobalt here. And they're going to have these Ukrainian kids that are like, oh, man, do you have any blood cobalt? Because it wasn't controlled by Zelensky. Yeah, we're about.
Can you imagine China? China's sweating it because like all of their enemies are now buying drone parts from them.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost at that point. This is the Adam Green post that you pulled up, the Convert Gregorian to Hebrew September 11th thing. What was this about?
Yeah, I mean, I where this guy is coming from. So, like, I commented on this. I didn't realize what his trip with it. Like, this context. Like, I spent 3.5 years transcribing this with an elderly rabbi. I dedicated like a huge chunk of my life, twice a week, 5 to 6 hours at a time, looking at this text and the commentary on this text from the 16th century. And like walking away from it relates to like when this stuff comes up for me, I'm like I was saying earlier, like the vast distinction between a prophecy and a prediction and the way that they communicate all this. So for me, like it's always been a fear when I've gone on to podcasts and I go the hell off on this, that people will jump to this place of like, I was the Jews, but I'm over here just like, look, like I'm with Webster Tarpley. I'm like basically like beyond this, it's like rogue factions of Saudi Arabia, the US, Israel, absolutely coordinated event. But at the same time, yes, it is true that as early as the 12th century, they predicted this to the day. And so it's actually in the 18th century, it was a rabbi that adjusted the date because the date that they give for the 25th of Elul can't land on a Friday ever. So the way that they adjusted in the 18th century translates to September 11th, 2001, where these strongholds will be destroyed. And this basically ushers in, it's like a springboard towards a one world government. And so the Zohar outlines how this takes place, all the dynamics involved, that basically it's corrupt governments enshrouding what is ultimately the prophesied event. The prophecy itself relates to what we could call an evolutionary advancement in the species that basically were not developed all the way yet. And so there's something that's taking place. Right. Well, the AI is part of the technology that is in the midst of this organic happening. So that's why you say you have two orders to the Sephiroth. You have the actual order of like what we would say is the lightning flash of creation communicated in the Sefer Yetzirah. And then you have, the sustaining order of the empire. And so the corruption that surrounds the 9/11 event has to do with the empire, whereas below that, in the midst of that, is this other movement that says basically that the powers that be are trying to take what they can of the old eon before we move out of it. So it's like the skin of the snake is peeling back, and they're trying to what they can take from the old world before we move into the next eon. So I'm just saying, like, I thought it was interesting looking at people sharing this, and yeah, where they go with it, I don't resonate with, and it's always been a concern of mine when I put this out there because where people will go with this, but it just requires a lot of qualification, and that's actually one of people think. Yeah. It's one of the problems that you'll see, like when you look at in the 1930s, Jews in Germany, Poland, the interest of the German people in their tradition, wanting to know, but they don't. There's also a fear. There's like a fascination of the mystical, but then there's also this fear of it because they're not quite in it, and so it's just like so much context to give to somebody that it can really lead to a lot of people will get angry because they're like, I can't begin to what would be required for me to get all the context that goes into your cultural understanding of something is just too much. So this is like I don't
Writing on the
understand this
front
completely
and the back.
myself, but I'm like, yeah, you can spend years studying something and then you try and explain it to somebody in a single fucking paragraph and it's just impossible. And people have
Well,
these
If you
kind of
had
knee-jerk
like a
reactions.
million years of evolution on a whole culture, how would you deal with the same culture shock?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's
so
crazy.
are the priories of the learned elders of Zion like the Cliff Notes version of the Zohar? Is that how that works?
Not really. No.
I wouldn't go there, my son.
I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. I can make.
No,
I'm
it's-
melanated. I'm melanated. I can see.
But you're still okay for the priesthood, so that's fine. What's
No,
Will
It's a
tell me
horse.
your YouTube channel again? I want to pull that up right now.
Meta Egg. In fact, Goro Adachi and I have a product coming out within the next week together, a video collaboration. I'm pretty excited because it's the first thing that Goro's had the chance to put down, and it's pretty scripted, all by him. And
I don't think you guys realize how freaking sweet vaporwavy Will Morgan really is.
Right.
I don't know if you
Go
guys realize how few
subscribe.
videos I actually
You're
watch of
fine.
other people's besides Will Morgan's. I actually watch Will's videos. They're short and they're sweet and they're to the point, but they're so fresh and hyphy. And let me just say, like, if you want research like in a soda can, like real quick and just like airport
Beer
size.
can.
Dude, no, it's small. Like it's just like this is a quick serving. Boom. Like I feel like Will Morgan's got quick servings of boom. That's what you got.
It's really weird. Different, like I haven't even tried TikTok. I tried TikTok a little bit, but it doesn't have an official channel.
You
The
should just post
conspiracy
pictures
ones
of
do
girls
best
jumping on trampolines
on-
behind you while instead of the vaporwave background for TikTok.
I think you do well on
Girls.
TikTok. I think you do really well there.
Yeah, if you
I
just
think-
had TikTok
no, I think
girls
it's
behind you in the green screen, you're gonna go
Yeah.
hard. Yeah,
It's
So-
really different ones do better on different surf or platforms. It's really weird. Like people are okay watching certain things on certain platforms, and they're not okay watching certain
they're
things.
looking
on other
for certain
platforms.
things, certain places. Yeah, and you do a good job. I mean, the things you cover, like honestly, if I had to watch anybody talk about new Star Wars, it's gonna be you. And then also, I liked what you did with where was it? Just went past it. What was it? Yeah, no, was it the ET one? You did one recently I really liked. I forget.
Right. I
Which one
think the ET is the final one. There's a couple more coming out, but I kind of like put on hiatus because the Goro Adachi thing is kind of time sensitive. It has to do with September 29th and the opening of the Sphere and the U2 residency in Vegas and Oppenheimer and a lot of different stuff like that. So I've kind of got a system where I can pop those quick ones out. And there's other people I really marketed to Star Wars. The Star Wars stuff does really good. I like Star Wars because Star Wars is like the entry level to reading syncs. It's intentional sync.
Absolutely.
So
I think we should do a thing. I'd like to come on Meta Egg at some point, and I'd like to join you on
we're
one of your
about to start
streams.
up the live shit a lot more, and I got
Guys, make sure you subscribe to Meta Egg. I want to see 1,000 subscribers
Zero.
here. Oh, Frank Zero is great. Yeah, we should get
Frank
Frank Zero back
does.
too.
You can hit the live tab and you can see them, but we did some Saturday morning vision quests. We're going to do some of the more of those. I got a reptilian one about shape-shifting reptiles in like
Dude,
90s
Frank Zero
cartoons.
looks so intense, and yet I love him so much. He's so chill.
Dude, he's
for
like a
such an
teddy
intense
bear.
dude.
He's a
Dude, I whenever I talk to that guy, I feel like I'm talking to Alan Moore. Like he feels like more Alan Moore than Alan Moore somehow.
Bro's an apostle. I dig him.
I think he knows NLP very, very deeply.
Yeah, very deeply.
Talks like very like he can follow us in deep in zone.
Dude, Max Headroom shirt. Guys, make sure you subscribe. It looks like we already got a couple new subscribers here, so keep jumping up on the Meta Egg. Go to Meta Egg. I'm going to put the Meta Egg link into the chat, and I want to see you guys click on it and join the Meta Egg. So please watch his videos. And the other one is David Charles Plate from the Sync Book, who you can go to thesyncbook.com. You can click on videos. You can find the Sync Flicks. He's got all of his work here, but he's actually started putting them on his X Twitter. And even I think you're releasing ones that you haven't released on your site at some point.
Yeah, totally.
So pretty sweet. The Lion King with Donald Glover's "Awaken My Love." Come on.
Yeah, Childish Gambino. So last night I put them both up. So he was the voice of I think is it Simba in the new Lion King as the young Simba. And so the album coming out I think it was within a year. It was like several months after the release of the new Lion King. He came out with an album that's actually the name of the album is the date that it first dropped because he let it people download it initially before. I love it when musicians do this thing. Saul Williams does it too, where they'll release an album for free before they do it the more traditional way. They let the so it's like kind of a way to work around the label, you know. But yeah, so yeah. Oh, you're muted, Andreas.
Andre,
my bad. Make sure you guys subscribe to David Charles Plate and you watch his Sync Flicks and check out The Lion King, which is interesting for so many reasons, and we won't even get into Ferris Bueller right now. But I'm pretty sure he's himself.
Well, the Lion King thing relates to Alan's Hindsight 2020 too. I mean, it's amazing. This is a huge sync thread.
If you really watch them at the same time, Ferris Bueller and Lion King are the same movie. Like it's the same story if you think about it in a lot of ways.
Points.
Yeah,
good points.
I like it.
You're making good points here.
I try. Bat Monkey Customs, the most beautiful, the most majestic. Andrew, a father of a wonderful child on a very tall bike, a little girl on a very big bike. And yeah, he does amazing work. So beyond the fact that he's brilliant and interesting, he also is like a leather worker, metalsmith. Look at this guy. Come on. That's the
you built that? You built that whole thing?
Yeah, I've touched every bolt on that bike.
Dude, this is a family man right here, and we're really proud to know him. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to Bat Monkey Customs and check him out, and he'll be selling stuff on.
Yeah, if you want this on a blanket.
Wait, let me go back. Oh yeah,
you have Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights on a blanket.
Yeah.
Look at that girl. She looks so happy right now. Look at her, 33. Awesome. I don't know. I'd like to see that too. That's cool. All right. Anyway,
I'm seriously, I don't make any money off of those. So yeah, it's
just because you're making the world a better place. That's good.
You should be making money off of those.
But yeah,
I make
sure
like
you guys
$5 each one.
check out Bat Monkey Customs to get more, and also hopefully we'll get some link or something. I'm gonna try to get you on X so I can get you into the Discord on a bot so people can just track you down. And then Synchronous, if you want to get in a fight, just kidding. No, Eddie. One of the best synchronistic researchers out there. Take it or leave it. One of the best synchronistic researchers out there. And I really love a lot of the stuff that he posts. A lot of the content and subjects of this show come from Eddie. And so I hope that you guys are following him throughout the week, because that helps us figure out what's more interesting and important. And you can suggest things that we need to be looking into. And Eddie remembers all the craziest back stories of these events. Wait a second. Didn't that guy do this like 15 years ago? It matters when you get a holistic approach to things. So Synchronous.
So definitely, if anybody joins the group and you feel like you want to pitch an idea for the show, you throw it in there.
Synchronous is not on strike. You can scab here. Cool. And then
and one more thing. I plugged it last time, but I'm doing Instagram live drawing sessions, but I haven't done it as often as I would needed to. But
what's your Instagram account called again?
Yeah, again, it is EDDO 2001. That's the name of
EDDO 2000.
Edo 2001. Yeah, so 2001. Pretty soon I do another live drawing session and try to sell some original art if I can, because
dude, this is super sweet.
I am in trouble.
You make some pretty great art, and I think you're gonna find a huge audience of people, especially like kids trying to learn how to draw. And this is. If you want to actually cut to the front of the line of knowing how to do things, like study an apprentice under an expert, you know what I mean? And besides, you can watch him draw her naked before he puts clothes on her, which is pretty funny.
You can pose for me if you like.
Yeah. Paging Eddie's wife. All right. Well, everybody, we love you. See you next time. Take care. Peace.